Hello, hello, and welcome to all of our viewers across the globe, and welcome to the students at Thoroughgood Elementary School. This is a live safari that you are on. My name is Jamie, and I'm going to be driving you around and telling you all about the amazing animals that we have out here, just like our giraffe. And behind me sits a gentleman called Brian, and a very special character who might appear every now and again called the Thumb. So you have to pay close attention and see if you can spot it every now and again. I'm not going to take you away for too long because we've got the perfect animal to start your safari. And as you can see, as we have a closer look at this male giraffe, it's a bright, warm, sunny day here in midwinter in the middle of South Africa, in the South African bush. And just look at this incredible giraffe. You can tell that it's a male, firstly by his size, also by his dark color. And if you have a look at the horns on the top of his head there, he's showing you nicely. Yes, boy, we're talking about you. You can see how thick they are and where they're rubbed bald at the top of his head. And oh, if you were looking carefully, you might even have seen that purple tongue poking out, because yes, giraffes' tongues are purple. And the reason they are purple is if we have a look at the tree that he's eating, it is covered in these really, really sharp hooked thorns that if we tried to eat them, we'd have very sore gums and cheeks and tongues for the rest of the week. But for a giraffe, whose tongue is really strong because of the dark pigment, so a special dark color that it gets that makes it tough, it's called melanin. And that's how our giraffe is able to wrap his tongue right around the thorny branches that he is and munch away on the leaves. And when we're finished looking at this giraffe a bit later, we're going to go and we're going to have a look at those thorns, and you can get an idea of just how sharp they are. A long, long neck, and then a big, strong body, and then even longer legs, with that unique spot pattern that giraffes have. And there's his hooves right down at the bottom, and his long swishing tail to keep the flies away. And all in all, he makes for a very impressive picture. This is a fully grown giraffe in his prime. And have a look at where he stands when his head comes up again, if his head comes up again. Sort of get an idea of just how tall he looks next to that tree. Because if he does decide to move off, obviously I'm not going to scare him, but if he does decide to move off, then I can jump off the car and show you what I look like in comparison to that tree. And you can really see just how tall a giraffe really is. The tallest land mammal. Oh, and as he walks away, don't forget that this is actually happening. So what you're watching is happening in real life here in South Africa, in a place called the Sabi Sand Game Reserve. And what that means, guys, is that you and I can actually have a conversation. So you can ask me the questions that you want to ask, and I can answer them for you. If you have any questions, maybe you want to know how tall this giraffe is, and he's probably around close to between 16, I would say about 16 feet from the top of his head right down to the bottom. And oh, he's really enjoying these thorny trees today. He's on to the next one. Got tired of eating that. He wants a change of snack. He wants to eat something different for lunch. You see, if we look, he's got those long, long eyelashes as well. Also, to protect his eyes, every time he sticks his head into the trees like that, he runs the risk of getting them poked by thorns, which obviously he doesn't want to happen. And since he has disappeared behind the tree, I think let's try and sneak a little bit closer, and maybe we can have a closer look, first of all at what he's eating, and also at his face, since I think he's a bit shy, and he might need some encouragement to come out and say hello. Let's go get a bit closer. Now, he might look tall and clumsy, but a giraffe is actually very, very fast. You can imagine, if his legs are 6 feet long, just how far he can stride. So some of you may be taller than others, and you might know that you can run quite fast, but this giraffe can run faster than anybody here, even Brian, who's pretty tall himself. Even Brian probably wouldn't be able to keep up with a giraffe. We're going to sneak a bit closer and we're going to have a look at that amazing neck of his. Hello, boy. Okay, if I get too much closer, then I think he's going to run away from us. At the moment, we'll just have to put up with a tree in the way. So while he's leaning forward, Hayley, you're wondering, why do giraffes have long necks? There's one possible answer, Hayley. The truth is, nobody really knows. For a long time, people thought or believed that giraffes had long necks just because it meant that they could reach higher up than the other animals. Yes, that's true, boy. But they often don't feed all the way up at the tops of trees, and they also can't feed as high as another big animal out here called an elephant, which we could see out on your safari as well. Now, Hayley, one of the other ideas is giraffes have got long necks for the same reason that deer have antlers. Now, that might sound really strange, but you know how deers, with their antlers that grow once a year, they fight, the male deer fight other male deer in order to have a chance to mate with the females. And giraffe fight in a different way. So they've got tiny horns on the top of their heads, not big like the antlers or the horns of the antelope out here, but they have got a really long neck and their skulls are very heavy. So what the males do when they're fighting is they lower their necks and they swing them with those powerful, really strong neck muscles from side to side, and they try and hit the other male on the side or on the legs or on the bottom to try and show just how strong they are. So scientists think that the longer the giraffe's neck, the more they can, the harder they can hit the other male, and therefore that is why, that's the theory of the idea as to why a giraffe has such a long neck. Now, Cody's asked another really good question. Cody wants to know, well, why does a giraffe have spots? Why it has a spotted pattern? And the answer is, in a way, Cody, it actually helps to camouflage them. So it breaks the outline of the giraffe and kind of hides the bushes behind the trees. Look at him nibbling away. And then there's also another theory that giraffe might have spots as a way of controlling their temperature. So the dark spots get warm and the light patterns stay cold. You know how if you put a black object out in the sun, it kind of heats up quickly, and if you put a white object out in the sun, it doesn't heat up as quickly. So the idea is that it kind of makes a breeze that blows across the giraffe. But the truth is, Cody, nobody really knows. For me, probably the best explanation is that it helps to hide them, especially when they're babies. So a big male giraffe like this, there's not many things that are going to try and hunt him. Maybe a big pride of lions, but probably, most likely, they'll avoid him. So he doesn't really need to hide, and in fact he's so big that he wouldn't be able to. But a baby giraffe is much more at risk of being hunted by lions. So they might be able to use their camouflage to hide away. And just have a look quickly. We were talking about giraffes using their necks to fight each other, but we also spoke about their horns. And if you look at the top of his horns, look closely there, you see how they're bald. So he's got hair all around the bottom. Ah, perfect, thank you, Brian. He's got hair all around the base, but the top of them is kind of bald and just skin. And that's come from rubbing away whenever he's had a fight with another giraffe. So that's why he's, what are actually called ossicones are bald. And the females have hairy ossicones and very thin horns. There's his perfect purple tongue. You can see how it works with his lips to pluck the different leaves from this tree. And he's really enjoying his lunch. Look how much he's eating in one go. Making sure he doesn't poke himself in the nostril as well. Now, Carla, you're wondering what is a giraffe's shelter? And the truth is, they don't have any. Either they go and they stand in the rain if it is raining. They might try and find a nice big tree to keep them dry. But for the most part, they don't have shelter. They just wander around like most animals. Some of the animals here live in tunnels or in burrows, but most of them live outside. Look how carefully he is using his lips to nibble away at the branches. And Noah, this is probably close to close to as tall as this giraffe will ever grow. But you wanted to know how tall can a giraffe grow? And the answer is one of the tallest recorded was around 18 feet. If you pushed it really far, you might get one that's around 20 feet tall. They're very, very big animals. Much taller than you or I. So I could sit on Brian's shoulders, but I'm not going to because I think we'd both fall down. But if I did, we would still probably only come up to maybe the giraffe's shoulder if we were lucky. He's really enjoying this tree. This seems to be much better than the other one. Alana, you wanted to know if a giraffe, because I spoke about how fast they are, you want to know if a giraffe is faster than a cheetah. And the answer is, over a short distance, no. So there's nothing out here that can run as fast as a cheetah can. We're talking close to 70, even higher, miles per hour, so they go really, really fast, faster than anything else can run. The problem with a cheetah is that they are natural sprinters. So some of you are really good at sprinting short distance, some of you can run for long distances, and a cheetah is not a very good long distance runner. They get tired very quickly, which is why they have to sneak up on their prey first before they start to run and to chase. So a giraffe is faster than a cheetah after they've run maybe about less than a quarter of a mile. A cheetah can only run for a very short space of time at its fastest, whereas a giraffe can run for much, much longer. But a cheetah is definitely too small to even think about chasing an adult giraffe. Now look closely there. Have a look at those spots around at the base of his ear. Oops, he turned his head at the wrong time. But if you look carefully between the leaves, you might see some spots like he's got something on his skin. Now, how many of you are familiar with ticks? I know that you do get ticks, not sticks. I'm sure you get sticks there too. But you get ticks in the United States. Well, we get them here as well, and they like to sit on these big animals like giraffe and maybe buffalo, elephant, lions. There's always ticks to be found on the different animals. The difference is that our ticks don't pass on serious diseases like Lyme disease, so they're not as dangerous. I think he's feeling a bit shy, and I think most of you want to go and explore a little bit more before we get to the end of our safari. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to visit one of the water holes and see if maybe there aren't some elephants coming for an afternoon drink. Because even though it's midwinter here in South Africa, it's the afternoon, so it's the hottest time of the day, and it's actually 78 degrees Fahrenheit this afternoon. So I've got my shirt on, I don't even need a jacket or a jumper. But before we go, if maybe we can have a look at the tree that the giraffe was eating and have a look at the thorns. Let's see if we can't get a glimpse at what they look like. So Brian's going to try and show us. Look carefully, because I told you that the giraffe was eating something with thorns. Look at those. Those sharp, sharp, sharp hooked thorns. And the giraffe was just wrapping his tongue around those branches like it meant nothing. Isn't that incredible? Brian, I don't think we should try that.
No, definitely not.
Definitely not. I don't want to be chewing on one of those. But for giraffe and elephant, it doesn't matter to them. That is the tree that our giraffe was snacking on before he found something more delicious to eat for his late afternoon lunch. Okay, let us go and explore the waterhole. It's not too far from here, and fingers crossed there are going to be some more animals to show you. Now Ava, while we drive along, hello to Ava, you wanted to know if or how big this area is that we go on safari. Bye, Mr. Giraffe. We're just coming past. Don't be scared. It's okay, boy. Bye-bye. Yeah, moving on to the next tree. Time for a different change, different food. So Ava, for an animal like this giraffe, they have the equivalent of 4 million football fields of open space that they can walk around in without any fences. It's bigger than some of the small countries that are in the world. So a small country like Wales in the United Kingdom is smaller than the Kruger National Park that we are in at the moment. What that means is that they've got so much space, but they each have their own place that they call their own. So kind of like for you guys, kind of like your apartment or your house in a suburb, that's sort of what the animals here have. And that's called a home range or a territory. Oh, we've got some more animals for you, or we will have soon. We just have to be patient because they're trying to hide themselves in the trees off to our left. You'll have to look very closely to see them. There we go. This is one of my absolute oh, she's pregnant. She's got a baby growing there. A little bit of a bulge. These are one of my favorite antelope. They are called Nyala. Who wants to try saying Nyala? It begins with an N, but the N is almost silent and then goes Y-A-L-A. Nyala. And this is the female, oh, these are females. The females are this beautiful, what would we describe it? Maybe orange? Almost orange, brown color. With very, very pretty white stripes and dots. And it's a type of antelope that likes to hide in between the trees, just like they are doing. Look at them moving off. They disappear so quickly. There were probably about 10 when I arrived. Now we can only see 2 of them. That white tail. There you can sort of see if you look really closely. Here comes another one. It's actually a baby. It's a young Nyala, still fluffy. Oh, getting a bit scared. Running up behind Mum. Much like our giraffe, these little guys eat only leaves. So they munch on leaves as well. Okay, well, we're playing a game of hide and seek with the animals, and at the moment, they are winning the game. Right, well, I'm not the only person out here. There's actually somebody else who would really like to say hello to you, and that is a man called James Henry, along with VM on the back, so let him say hello to you all.
Hello everybody from the Thorogood Elementary School in Virginia Beach, Virginia. Sounds like a lovely place to be, I must say, but it's a lovely place here too. There are some buffalo. We're sitting in the African wilderness in the same way that Jamie was. My name is James, and on camera today we've got Viam. He's a very skillful fellow. He's going to be filming us today, and we're just going to have a look at these buffalo for a little while. Now, they're not the same as the buffalo that you get in the United States, of course. These are called Cape or African buffalo. And they look quite a lot like what we might term a water buffalo. You find those in Asia, but they're not actually the same thing at all. Now, they're not the only animals here. We can't see it very clearly, but as Via moves slowly to the right-hand side, you can just see some shiny skin in the middle of that little patch of water there. And I would love to go a bit closer, but we're not allowed to at this stage, so we're just going to stay right here where we are. We don't want to frighten the animal. That's a hippopotamus. Can you believe it? A hippopotamus lying with another buffalo in the middle of the water. And the reason he's lying in water that isn't so good at the moment, well, not so deep for him, not the best kind of water for a hippopotamus, is that we're in the middle of a drought. And that means we haven't had enough rain to fill up all the water holes, and that means it's very difficult for the things like the hippos to find enough water to lie in. And they like to lie in the water because they don't like the sun too much. It's not very good for their skin. Anyway, these buffalo are all bulls. That means they're all male buffalo. And the females, they live with the little ones in big herds of up to 1,000, in this area sometimes, but normally sort of 150 to 200 or so buffalo in one herd. And the bulls, just like old men of our human species, well, they like to be on their own and talk about times when they were younger. Look at all the flies coming off that thing. Isn't that amazing? Now, Lillian, you ask a very clever question. Do animals get grey hairs, you say, when they get old? Lillian, some animals get grey hairs, yes. Now, I bet that some of you have got dogs and cats at home, and if you look around the nose of your dog when it starts to get old, you will see that it gets grey hairs. Some animals are just white-coloured, so they naturally sort of have a whitish tinge to the fur. And if you look at some horses, for example, they get little patches of white, but that doesn't mean they're old. But when they do get old, it's often around the nose that you start to see that they get grey hair. In the case of these buffalo, they don't get grey, but they start to lose their hair. A bit like me. I've also started to lose my hair. And so much the same as the buffalo. Okay, let's carry on down the road here and see what else we can find. Oh, look. Sylvia, I didn't quite hear your question. It sounded like you asked, why do they have shoes? Well, I don't think they have shoes at all. Oh, Sylvia, you want to know why they've got hooves, not shoes. Well, they've got hooves, everyone. That's called a grey go-away bird, by the way. They've got hooves, Sylvia, because they walk on this kind of hard, rocky ground, and they don't want soft feet like ours, because it's much better for them to have a hard bottom to the foot. And they also don't have to be very quiet, and so it's easier for them, unlike a lion, for example, which has got a pad, like your dogs or your cats at home, they have to move very quietly. So although it's quite nice to have a soft foot, if you want to move quietly, you know what happens if you stand on a thorn or something sharp, your foot gets very sore. So if you don't have to move quietly, and the buffalo don't have to move quietly, it's much better to have a hard foot so that you can, you don't get things stuck in the bottom of it, and you can also move, it can grip into the ground. And that's why they have hooves. That's actually a very good question. Well done. Let's see what else we can find along the road here. Maybe we'll be lucky to find some elephants. And of course, even if we don't have elephants, we will find a whole lot of elephant dung. Now, Reese, you want to know what animals buffalo are related to? Well, buffalo are related mainly to the animal, well, the animal that you're most familiar with is a cow. They're very like cows, Reese. Now, when we get out in the wild, we always have to be careful. We can't just wander about the place. We've got to check under the bushes and see that there isn't anything that we might frighten or that might frighten us. As you can imagine, if a lion stood up behind a branch like that, it would terrify us. Now, this is a piece of elephant dung, and elephant dung is not bad smelling. It's pretty nice to smell, actually. It's not really like most of the sort of dung you find, not like dog or cat dung, for example. But in the elephant dung, we can tell what the elephant's been eating. And this elephant was eating a fairly sort of a small twig. You see, it's a small branch from a tree. And this elephant also ate some leaves. There you can see some leaves. And elephants don't digest their food very well. They don't chew very well, so they kind of put their food into their mouths like you. When you're very hungry and you go to a fast food joint, you just shove the food into your mouth and swallow very quickly. That's pretty much what an elephant does. And also little bits and pieces of grass. So that's 3 things that an elephant eats in just one piece of dung. And apart from twigs and grass and leaves, they'll also eat fruits and lots of seeds. And I hope we do see one. I know we don't have very long with you this afternoon, but maybe we'll be very lucky and go around the corner and see an elephant. Let me plug myself back in. There we go. On we go. Now, oh, hang on. Oh, yes. I thought that was something on the road. It's not. It's a big rock. Let's go.
Well, since James managed to get to the waterhole that I was going to go to before I did, I think it's time that we go and check out an open area. So a nice big clearing where we can see a long way in the distance and hopefully spot some animals for you. Let us see what we can see out here. And I know of a little animal. So we spoke about the giraffe having no shelter, and I said that some animals do. And I know that there are some of these little animals living somewhere around here, and I'm hoping that they might be home a bit early. They're usually out during the day looking for food. It's a type of animal called a mongoose, a dwarf mongoose in fact, the tiniest of all of the mongoose family. And usually they live somewhere just around here, but it doesn't look like anybody's home. I'll show you where their homes are. They've got lots of different ones. Dwarf mongoose are really clever. They like to live in lots of different homes. So this is one of them here on our left. If we look at the base of the tree, there's a hole there. And they like to live in those different holes around there. They'll go running in and dive in. It's actually an old termite mound, so an old termite house that the dwarf mongoose have taken and made into their own home. But unfortunately, I think we've arrived a bit too early for our appointment with the dwarf mongoose. They haven't got back yet. They're still out trying to catch scorpions and other insects. Scorpions and grasshoppers, whatever they can find. Oh, we'll have to start looking for some other animals that might be living here. Looks as though today, or this afternoon, the clearings are very, very quiet. It seems as though the animals have got a party that I wasn't invited to somewhere else. I'm going to try and get you a view of one of my favorite birds, but he's also playing quite hard to get. But there he is, hiding in the branches. How many of you have seen The Lion King? Hands up if you've seen The Lion King. Well, this bird, turning his head, we just need him to look in our direction. This is the bird that they based Zazu on. There you go, you can see that long beak. And he's flown into exactly the wrong place. Let me try and reverse so that we can see him, because he's right in the tree above our heads. If I were you, Brian, I'd be a bit worried. I hope he doesn't poop. I think it might just miss you. Let's see if we can't get a different view of him. Well, there he is. Well done, Brian. Oh, no. He doesn't want to be on camera today. Now, usually, or quite often when there's hornbills around, the dwarf mongoose are not far behind, and that's because they forage together. I definitely heard a dwarf mongoose somewhere in here, but I think they're hiding. Let's go check the other side of the clearing and see if we can't find them, since our hornbill is being very shy. Every time he realizes that the camera's on him, he flies away. And while we're here, it's always a good place to look for leopards or anything like that. They like the very, very thick vegetation, just like those Nyala we saw earlier. They like to hide away, perfectly camouflaged with those spotty bodies. So keep your eyes peeled, because at this time of day, with the sun shining, there's a good chance that a leopard might be hiding up in the shade with its tail flicking every now and again to get rid of the flies. Oh, and it seems as though, unfortunately, for the pupils of Thorogood Elementary School, it seems as though you have to move on to the rest of your school day. Well, I hope that you have a wonderful rest of the day and that we will see you once again. And I hope you're all waving goodbye to the thumb. But we'll see you once again on safari at some point in the future. Bye-bye, guys. Okay, well, good afternoon again to our regular viewers. It's fantastic, as always, to have you on board with us. As you can tell, of course, by the sudden appearance of the thumb, and if you perhaps missed the introduction, Brian is on the back of the vehicle with me, and we're heading out at some point. We're going to start moving towards Arathusa to see if we can't follow up, because I hear that for the first time in, when was it? Must be close to 9 months now. But for the first time in 9 months, we have a chance or an opportunity to see the Matimba male lions back on our screens once again. Around July last year, they were unceremoniously, in fact, it's more than a year. It must be close to 10, 11 months. They were unceremoniously evicted from this area as the dominant male lion coalition by the arrival of the 5 Birmingham boys. And now, strangely enough, over the last few months, they've been straying more and more regularly back to the northern part of the Sabi Sands. We're going to go and investigate and see them. I think James did see them this morning. I'm not sure exactly where they are, so we're going to slowly make our way towards Arathusa. Now, for most of you, you will be aware that we've been in the process of interviewing various candidates for a job here at WildEarth in front of the camera this time. And we had Joffers, or Jonathan, and Yanni last week, and this afternoon I will be out alongside a gentleman called F.W. de Klerk. So he will be taking you on game drive as well. So James and F.W. will swap out at some point, and we'll be able to see him drive, and I'm sure that you will all be very, very warm in your welcoming of him on board these live safaris. Speaking from experience, it is quite the terrifying moment when you first sit in that seat. And of course, I know, just as you were incredible with me, that you will be warmly welcoming to him. I think, judging by his slightly pale face when we left camp this afternoon, he might be feeling the nerves a little bit. Certainly I was. I don't remember a word I said during my interview drive. It could all have been complete and utter, not nonsense. Might have been complete and utter nonsense, you never know. But I've just realized that I don't even have a game drive channel operating. Whoopsie. There we go. I could hear it beeping, but there was no volume. That's not ideal. Sorry guys, I'm just having a listen to the conversation that's happening here. But it's quite a long one, so I'm going to skip it for the moment. those of you who are concerned about, let's just stop and have a look at them quickly just because they are so beautifully illuminated in the sun. Just a quick update for those of you who are concerned about Jandre. I know many of you have been. He is very much on the mend, although I think it's going to be a while, certainly before he's walking and not hopping, which is quite funny to watch. He gets very tired of using his crutch and then just hops along. But Jandre stepped on a rusty nail and is now doing much better after a rather severe course of antibiotics. Hornbills don't want to cooperate, but we, not a hornbill. We found a bird. No, I can't even see the hornbills now. I don't even know where they went. But we've got the Cape turtle dove. I would guess that it being a male, it's very, very difficult to tell. Oh, all puffed up, giving a good preen there and ordering its feathers. Setting them all into place and surveying the open clearing, and all is very, very quiet out here at the moment. Just the odd bird fluttering about in that long beak that is very typical of pigeons and doves. Very multi-purpose, but largely singles them out as a seed eater of sorts. It seems as though the swap has been completed and FW is now in the driver's seat, ready to face you all. So I'm going to hand you across to him.
Everybody, good afternoon to you. And I have a special surprise. I'm not standing outside of the vehicle because I have found something absolutely spectacular. There is something absolutely spectacular within the vehicle, other than VM, of course. There is something, well, a world premiere, the second world premiere in 1 week, the world premiere of Mr. F.W. de Klerk.
Good afternoon, folks. I'm very happy to be here, very excited. The nerves might get to me, but I'll try and keep them at bay. Yeah, let's see what we can find.
Now be nice to him, please, everybody. He's going to take you for a drive. I'm wandering home at the moment, and I will be on the radio, so if I hear that you're nasty to him, well, I shall be very cross indeed. So please ask him many questions about himself and help him ease into what is slightly intimidating. You know, he's used to taking a drive with 6 people on the back of his car. Now he's got probably about 2,000 watching him. Good luck with that, and I'll see you later.
Okay, thank you. There's some water buck. Sam, I think those waterbuck are still running away from James. They saw him walking away. So let's carry on and then see what else we can find. James Richard, I've started guiding in 2009, so about 7 years now. I worked in a couple of different game reserves. Started out in the Waterberg, small reserve called Mabula Game Reserve. Then in 2011 I moved to the Lowveld, to Kapama Game Reserve, and then after that I moved over to Sabi Game Reserve, where I ended in April this year. Thank you very much for all the warm welcomes. It's making me feel much better now, getting the nerves settled. Aaron from New Zealand is asking which animal is my favorite animal. I would say that's a black rhino. Unfortunately not seen very often, but very catchy attitudes and lots of fun if you can find them out in the bush. Ellen, my favorite thing about the bush would definitely be to just be outdoors and be out in the wilderness, being able to see the sunrise and sunset every day and share it with people from all over the world, be it on live streaming like we're doing now or the safaris with people on the back. Angela, you're asking about a favorite sighting that I've had. This one in particular, it's the bush has the good, the bad, and the ugly, and this was a bit of everything of that. Well, I was fortunate and unfortunate enough to see predator interaction where leopard and lion were chasing each other around. Unfortunately, it didn't have the greatest ending for one of the two. Unfortunately, the lion's got a hold of the leopard and injured her quite fatally. But yeah, it was amazing to be able to see the interaction and see how nature works, although it is a bit gruesome as well. Alright folks, thank you very much. We're going to link to Jamie.
We're going to link to Jamie, who is desperately trying to find a cicada for you, but just have a listen to this. Oh. Come on, cicada. Away we go. Go again, go again. No? Aww. It was incredible. It was so loud, wasn't it, Brian?
It was amazing.
That was quite devastating. It's like when you have a beautiful bird and it flies away. Ah, well, the joys of live safaris. I won't forget that, cicada. I'm going to forever bear a grudge against you. I wonder if it realized we were... The difficulty... Is that not it there? Brian, on this closest monkey orange, on the branch that sort of goes up to the left, so this monkey orange right here, on there, there, is that it? Ah, I think it might, no, is that just a leaf? I think that's just a brown leaf, isn't it? That's a brown leaf. So to add insult to injury, my cicada stopped singing for you all, and there's a leaf on a tree.
At least it's a nice leaf.
At least it's a nice leaf. At least thanks, Brian. At least it's a different leaf. Dear oh dear. Well, let's swiftly move on. Very swiftly. Let's just keep going. Let's keep driving. Now the interesting thing about trying, that's why I got such a surprise that we did actually find a cicada, which we didn't, I know. But if we had found the cicada, it would have come as a terrible surprise, because the stridulations of a cicada have such an amazing, first of all, amplification, but also an almost ventriloquist-like effect. So they kind of bounce and they echo, and it's next to impossible to figure out exactly where they're calling from. Now, that's a very clever approach if you're a cicada, because they're not quiet. They're also a very protein-rich food source for a lot of birds and things out there. So to be able to call, announce your presence in an area, and yet at the same time not be able to be located by a predator or a potential predator is a very clever combination. And a lot of frogs do that as well. So moving swiftly from the insects to amphibians, a lot of frogs' calls, when you go out and you actually actively try and find the frog that is making the loudest possible noise, can prove to be incredibly difficult. And it's something that we have done in the past. I've been on a few frogging exercises, which sounds totally bizarre. I've been out frogging, where you go and you wade through and you look for the different species of frog. Alright, pity I annihilated that with my back wheel, sorry. It's a huge hyena track. But to finish off the sentence about the frogs, they do have these amazing abilities to hide themselves so cleverly away, and yet somehow the females of the species that are attracted to those calls are able to pinpoint exactly where that particular frog is calling from. I was going to try and stop to show you these little seed-eating yellow-fronted canaries, but much like my cicada, they really don't want to play along. How terribly distressing. First the hornbills, then the cicada. No, nobody wants to be on camera today. I'm starting to, even the buffalo weavers and the drongos are flying away. Starting to feel slightly insulted. Is it something I said, guys? They've all gone fluttering past, settling up in the knobthorn tree. I don't know what gave the buffalo weavers such a fright. They all departed very hastily, but I can't see any birds of prey. Okay, let's start heading towards Arethusa. And while we do, we're in this perfect winter month and we get all kinds of incredible sightings. And Dylan would like to know, what is the best month to see rare animals? It depends on what you mean, Dylan. If you want to see rare mammal species, then absolutely, hands down, the best time to come is in the winter months. So where we are now, as you're watching our live safaris, we've had several honey badger sightings, one wildcat, one pangolin, not me, that was Brent and Dave on Cheetah Plains, a pangolin sighting, what have I forgotten, a couple of servals. So some really interesting animals that we don't get to see all the time. And the winter months are perfect for that, because during the winter months, the nocturnal animals, because it's cooler, start to come out a bit earlier and often will move about, much like with that pangolin, in the middle of the afternoon. And sometimes even stay up a bit later. So for winter months, for rare nocturnal mammals, or at least seldom seen is maybe a better description, more rare to see rather than necessarily rare in terms of numbers, winter is the perfect time. Plus you can see further into the bush when you're spotlighting, so you're more likely to catch the glimpse of an eye that will give their position away. But if you're talking about something like rare birds, then probably summer months are the best times, particularly in northern Sabi Sands, since all the the migratory species will have, or most of the migratory species will have returned by then. So you'll get to add some of the more unusual ones to your bird list. The most unusual I heard of, or while I've been here, was the purple-banded sunbird, which is not an unusual bird to see, but it is very, very rare in this area. Oh, and what an absolute pleasure. For those of you who've been driving along Gowrie Main before, not Gowrie Main, Triple M, sorry, one of the main routes, I think we'd better go out of poor Roy's way. Hit the sandbank gently. Oh, we go. How's it, man? How are you? Hi. Hi guys. How's it, Roy?
Yeah,
going well.
We watch the cam all the time.
That's wonderful.
Yes.
That's fantastic. Wonderful to hear.
Yeah.
Is anything
Lutumful.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just a makulu task on the open area.
Oh, stunning. Oh, nice.
And then Gala Lock still going.
Okay, I'm going to start making my way slowly towards those Ngala.
Yeah, okay. If you on standby, just check palm threads. You see the big tool, the big task.
Oh, nice. Perfect. Thanks, Info. Cheers.
Are you videotaping us right now?
We are, yes. Wow. I'm so thrilled that we got to encounter some of our viewers. I meant to ask them what their names were, but it was just so rushed. So we obviously have some viewers from Canada on their safari, and hopefully getting to see, they will have just come from the Matimba lions, so getting to see some of the characters that they might be acquainted with. I don't know if that's my imagination, Brian, but that seems to be happening more and more recently. That is wonderful to see. I'm very, very glad that some of our viewers have had the opportunity to come and experience this. But for those of you who haven't and may not, there will always be our live safaris every day, twice a day, to fulfill the longing for Africa. Roy was just telling me there that there are some big tusks, was his description. So big tusked elephants somewhere around the Arathusa open area. I'm just going to go and check Red Dam quickly and find out what's happening there. While I do that, I'm just going to quickly turn on my radio. So while I have a chat and see what's happening there, I'm going to send you back to FW.
Hi there folks, welcome back. While you were with Jamie, we've been making our way towards Sydney's Dam. Go have a look what's going on there. And then after that we'll head towards Buffelshoek Dam. See if anything during the day came for a drink. Maybe we'll get some nice birds around the water as well. Clancy in Ohio, you asking what made me decide to get into the bush and guiding. Fairly simple, always wanting to be outdoors. I was lucky enough to grow up on a farm, never lived in a city before, so yeah, just always wanting to be outdoors and kind of had an inclination towards wildlife more than farming, and I decided to pursue that. Generally, for me, the difference between the Sabi Sands and some of the other game reserves I've worked on, basically, the Sabi Sands is part of a much bigger picture. You've got the entire Kruger National Park that's open to it, and your animal movements are much more natural than some of your reserves that don't have the fortune to be open to the park. And for me, that's the ideal way or place to be, is in a place where you wake up in the morning and you don't know what you're going to see, and just go out and explore the wilderness. Debbie, I would say my special interest is trekking and spending quite a bit of time on foot. What I'm currently doing is wilderness trails guiding, so that's mostly being on foot, and trekking does form a big part of that. I do enjoy a fair bit of birds as well, and botany is quite interesting as well. Patrick, yeah, animals during the day is more your daytime active animals, your diurnal animals, so something like impala, buffalo around a watering hole, elephant, giraffe, zebra, those types of animals. Leopard and hyena definitely would spend most of their time in the day just relaxing, sleeping, doing what lions do best, and then mostly at night they'll start moving around looking for food and exploring the areas that they're in. So folks, we're almost at the dam, at Sydney's dam. You can see it in the distance. And let's have a look, let's see what's around there. At this stage we do. We are in the middle of a big drought in this area, so a fair bit of animal movement tends to go towards water as water is getting more limited. So if you know of an area where there's a good water source, then there's definitely a chance of finding some game. There's some waterbuck in the distance. So yeah. I'm going to move back a little bit so you can just get them into shot a little better. If you look at their behavior, they're a lot more alert. You can see heads up, ears up, moving around, especially when we just got here. They looked straight at us. When they're at water or around water, they tend to be a little bit more nervous. It's just having to almost multitask and do different things at the same time. A lot of times you'll find predators lurking around in the shade of a bush around the water, waiting for some predator to come in. Oh look, nice baboon there. I wonder where the rest of the troop is. They might have scurried off as they heard the vehicle coming. Let's roll forward a little bit, get those water bucket here. Folks, we're going to link to Jamie with some warthog. Enjoy.
We have some warthog that are very rapidly escaping our attentions and sprinting off the open area. Seems as though my theme for the afternoon is continuing even onto the mammal species. They're all playing particularly camera shy. Very glad to hear that you got a baboon sighting. There we go. Oh, tail up, a slight panicked trot. Let's see if we can't get another view of them since they have made life a little bit more tricky. Well, as you can tell, well, maybe you can't actually. To be fair, that wasn't really a fair assumption. As you may or may not be able to tell, we are on Arathusa at this point. Oh, I need to get a little bit closer to those lions before I can ask for an update on them. But we're slowly making our way there. See if we can't spot those massive tuskers that Roy was chatting about earlier. Oh, warthogs. I think our warthogs have managed to evade us completely. Much more skittish on the western side of things. Okay, let's try this. Nice and slow. Warthogs, don't panic. Ah. That's definitely improved our view. Totally. One very, almost fully grown warthog with most likely its mother. It's a couple of months, probably, I would say if I had to guess, around 6 to 8 months old. So nearly independent, but still hanging about with mom for as long as possible. Okay, let's try this one more time. Oh, there we go. He's a big, I mean, he was a big boy. Now he's gone. Right, I think we should go home, Brian. Oh, at least this little chap wants to stick around. Thanks, buddy. Very much appreciated. I was starting to take it personally. Oh, Deborah, I like to hear that you've had a change of heart. So Deborah is our armchair traveller, and she said that she actually finds warthogs cute at this point, even this young male that we have in front of us. She said that she thought they were just ugly when she first thought about, or when she first learned about warthogs, but has now come to the conclusion that they are so ugly that they are actually cute. And I completely agree with you. I'm really fond of warthogs. I think they're very sweet and highly entertaining in their antics. There's Mom. Quite large tusks for a female. Deborah, I'm glad to hear that you've had such a change of heart. There we go, there's a nice close-up. You're not ugly, are you, girl? Okay, you maybe not winning any awards, but it's on the inside. It's what's on the inside that counts. They don't seem terribly fazed. And part of course, the ugly, what is it? It's the ugly 7. Is it the ugly 7? Is it the ugly 5? I can't remember right now. Includes the lappet-faced vulture, the hyena, I think it's the ugly 5. Lappet-faced vulture, hyena, which I think is grossly unfair, obviously. Marabou stork, warthog, and wildebeest, which also, again, I think is grossly unfair. That enormous male at the back was just being completely useless, dashing away. Here we go. A portrait of, I think, mother and son. It just hasn't quite hit puberty yet, so it's not as easy to tell. The best way is to look at the warts on their faces, which are, of course, not warts, but grizzle so cartilage and connective tissue. At least we did get to have something of a view of our warthogs. They've moved off now, and I don't think we're going to get another angle to see them, but we'll carry on forward a bit and then start making our way towards the Arethusa Dam. I'm very excited. I'm really excited to go and see the Matimba males. They're still around. It's been so long since I last saw them, and I'm sure that some of you must be feeling that as well. In fact, I'm so excited, I'm actually going to continue on. Let's go and investigate. And Karina in Finland, I think, may or may not have been a previous Arethusa guest, would be my guess. Or Karina has a map right in front of her, because she would like to know exactly where the Matimbas are on Arethusa. So from what I understand, Karina, I haven't been there yet, but from my understanding, they are in the river system that flows directly west from the lodge. So not far from the lodge at all. They've got a buffalo, from what I know, and they're hanging out around those drainage lines or those river systems there. Now, I'm not sure exactly how far away from the lodge they are, but I do know that they are relatively close. Now, we're going to go and investigate, Karina, and then I'll be able to give you a more specific location for them. And of course, while we're here, always, because I feel as though yesterday, seeing the first 6 cub of the new set, of course, seeing the first new stick cub has put renewed hope in my efforts to find Shadow's cub for the first time, and maybe be able to join you on your first experience of seeing her new baby. It's been a considerable period of time that we've been separated from Shadow. Shadow being a female leopard, the Queen of Juma's daughter, and probably the Queen of Arethusa. It's a tricky one, that. There's a couple of leopards vying for that position, but she is a leopard that really enjoys the drainage lines around the lodge. Just bear with me for 1 second. I'm going to try once again. It didn't work earlier, and I'm going to try again to get hold of some of the other guides and find out how long we have to wait for a chance to see those Matimbas. Shanae for Jamie. Shanae, can I grab a standby behind you? Copy that, thanks very much. While we start making our way into the area, Shanae, of course, many of you very familiar with. You might even get to see her on your screens very shortly. Shanae started out as a viewer and is now a fully fledged guide at Nkoro, which is fantastic news for her. So we might be on our way to see her very shortly. While we head there, let's go back to FW and find out where he is driving around.
Welcome back, folks. Slowly making our way towards Buffelshoek Dam. We'll be there in a couple of minutes, see what's happening around there. On this side it's been fairly quiet, not much game around. But yeah, hopefully the water will provide something. Aaron in New Zealand is asking what the rarest animal is I've seen. It must be the pangolin. Another name for the pangolin is a scaly anteater. It's this little funny shaped thing with these massive scales on it that they roll up in a ball, and they use the scales to protect themselves from predators if something does harass them. Normally out at night, very shy little things, and not a lot of them around as well, but we do stumble upon them every now and then.
Whoopsie daisy, well it seems as though poor FW lost signal, and as you know, bringing you a live safari from the middle of the African bush sometimes comes with its twists, turns and corners. But you have arrived on the back of Rusty at a relatively good time, because I can't change gear. Yes, I can. There we go, you arrived in even better time. I can change gear, I hope. Yes, all seems to be working smoothly. Well, the reason it's such a good time is because Sinead tells me that it should be our turn to go into the sighting relatively soon. We're on what's known as first standby. What that means, for those of you who are new to the whole safari business, essentially in order to avoid having a negative impact on the animal, or avoid affecting them or overcrowding them, the number of vehicles are limited that can go and have a look at the animal in one go. So it's sometimes 3. At the moment, it is actually only 2 vehicles that are allowed to join the sighting. That might be because it's very dense. It might be because somebody's decided that that's within the best interest of the animals themselves. We're on standby 1, which means when one of the vehicles comes out of the sighting, then we can take their place there. Somebody was racing along. They appear to be in a hurry to get to somewhere. Let's should we just let the dust settle a little bit, Brian? Otherwise we're going to be sneezing. Brian and myself seem to suffer the worst from it, I think. Oh, there's a zebra to look at. Let's look at the zebra while we wait for the dust to settle. How very convenient. Thank you, little zebra. Or big zebra. Big zebra. Hello, you. Where's the rest of your herd, boy? Or are you all on your own? Oh, no. Aren't they just one of the most photogenic animals? It's so incredibly striking, that combination of black and white, particularly, of course, to the human eye with our color vision. Shame. Having a tough time of it, the zebra. Munching away on whatever's left of the grass in our dry season. And we've only, of course, just gone into what is in theory our dry season. But it feels as though it's just gone on forever. Summer didn't really bring the rains we needed. And for bulk grazers like a zebra, this is a tough situation. They have to roam far and wide. And zebra, unlike the ruminants, giraffe and other antelope and buffalo, they never show if they are thin, just due to the nature of their digestive system, producing a great deal of gas, which creates those rather rotund, let's put it that way, bellies. Let's go forward a little bit, just so that we can see his head nicely. There we go. And it's only when we start to see the manes flopping down that we'll know that they are in bad nick. At the moment, the zebra perfectly healthy, and in fact the zebra's digestive system will probably actually afford it an advantage in these dry times. So the ruminants are capable of getting the most nutrients out of what they eat, but it's a very slow process, which means that protein-wise, they actually, at this time of year, might really struggle to meet their nutritional needs. Whereas for zebra, they might not have the most effective digestive system. They've only got one stomach, and most of it happens in the cecum of the small intestine. They can eat more, which means they can process it faster, which means they can actually, just by the nature of the amount that they can eat, meet their nutritional requirements, hopefully. There's the rest of them, proving just how effective that the zebra stripes can be in terms of breaking up the animal's outline and keeping them hidden from us. Okay, unfortunately, I don't want to dally too long with the zebra, as wonderful as they are in this glorious afternoon light. I think it is time for us to start moving towards the direction of the lions. While we do, speaking of ruminants and their relatives, FW has some buffalo for you.
Alright. Folks, while you were with Jamie, we've bumped into the Old Boys Club. Two male buffaloes. The one we're looking at now, and just further and a bit to the left there's another one. By the looks of things around here, we've been looking at some tracks, there's these two males. That watering hole that we went to, or we're heading towards, is not far from here, and I think they went through to the water, had a drink. Being very water dependent, they need to drink twice a day at least. They've gone, had a drink, and now as it's starting to cool down, they're moving around, starting to feed again. Liam, if you can try and get to the mouth, we can look at how they use the tongue to wrap around the grass and just take as much grass as they can in. Buffalo, they're ruminants and they're bulk grazers, so they're an animal that needs to feed quite a bit, and they take quite a fair bit of grass per day. And with the rumination during the middle of the day, the heat of the day, they relax, lie down and re-chew a lot of what they've taken in the time that they were moving and feeding. That was a bit of a good example of the rumination. It looks like they're chewing on a chappie. There's no food in the mouth, but everything's happening in the molars at the back and the side of the mouth. I think let's move back a little bit. For me, buffalo, they always have this perfect poker face. You can see when he looked at us now, he didn't have any sort of a expression or anything, and they're some of the more difficult animals to read out in the bush, read their behavior. They don't give you a lot of signs of any aggression or any feeling. Monique in London, you asking about the most magical encounter that I've had tracking animals, I would say any of the big cats, they're probably the best to track, and they give you a lot of expression, and they like showing themselves to you if you stumble upon them and giving them a bit of a surprise. I've had a few. Probably the one that I remember the best is a big male lion that I tracked a couple of years ago, and yeah, we're struggling for tracks, and eventually just kept going, lost the tracks eventually, and we found blue wildebeest tracks that were leading out of a block. And the guy that was with me, a very experienced tracker, he said, let's follow these wildebeest tracks, walk in on them, and we should find these lions. It looked like they were chased out of this area by the lions. And yeah, we kept walking in on these tracks for about 100 meters or so, and yeah, up came the lion and gave us a bit of a nice hello in lion language, bit of a grunt, and then yeah, I had the privilege to get the guests in. That's the only thing that they wanted to still see, and got them into the bush, quite thick bush, and all over smiles and happiness. Alright folks, let's carry on towards Buffelshoek Dam and see if there's anything else around that area. James Richard, you've caught me on that one. Do I keep a bird list? No, not really. I've always been very lazy with the paperwork side of things, so I've never really set out a list and yeah, just kept going with that. Alright, Jamie's got some elephants. We'll see you in a bit.
I want to paint a picture for you. Imagine perhaps that you are about to go out on afternoon game drive from the Arathusa Lodge, and you step outside to maybe have a cup of tea, or maybe a sundowner, and you step outside your door and look who happens to be enjoying a late afternoon snack. I think you would be taken quite by surprise if that was your view from your bedroom window. A massive elephant bull, being a little bit of a, what's the word, peeping Tom. Oh, he looks like he took offense to that. I'm not a peeping Tom, just wanted that really specific blade of grass that is clearly there, obviously. Not in any way peeping through the window, or I might wander over now to one of the piping and possibly even the lights. I think I've already knocked over one by the looks of things on the pathway. Perhaps I should go and knock over a second. Imagine being a guest at the lodge and sticking your head out of the window to that. There's nothing lovelier than these big elephant bulls, full of confidence. They know that they are the biggest thing out here, and as a result, no real need to stress about anything, really. Just a slow wander through the lodge, past the walkways, and off to the south of Arathusa. Definitely be an experience worth writing home about. Not that anybody really writes letters anymore, but an experience sending a postcard and a photograph, a selfie, back home as he disappears off. Well, that was thoroughly entertaining. Not the first time we've ever seen elephants in this garden, but that was probably the closest that I have. And the reason that he's there is because all of the pipes running from the house will have tiny little leaks in them, just enough, just those little ever so 1 millimeter, 2 milliliters of water coming out of the pipe, is enough to give a nice strip of green around the front of the lodge, and in fact some of the watered lawns further in. Make it nice and green, and for an elephant in the middle of a drought, it just presents an irresistible lure. It's not the direction of the lions though. I'm going to have to go backwards, which is my worst because it's all along this narrow damn wall. And Chris, you wanted to know if an elephant has ever given me a scare. Well, Chris, that's a question you should actually ask Eugene. Eugene can tell you a very interesting story about the time he arrived home last night, pulled up into his usual parking bay, which is right in front of the house, and discovered, sorry, I'm listening to the Game Drive channel at the same time, and discovered an elephant right in the middle between the vehicle and the house. So yes, elephants have given us all scares at times. Sorry guys, the Game Drive channel is just... Let's just keep going back. There is a second standby available. And while we attempt to do a U-turn, I regret this decision. I'm not going to attempt to do a U-turn. I'm going to go all the way back here and see if we can't do it this way. The dam wall has eroded slightly since I last attempted a U-turn here. So we'll just have to go do our safari backwards. Sorry guys, I'm now in control of this lineup, which is relatively tricky because I can't hear. Yeah, standing by. Afternoon, standby 3 is available, so 2 vehicle lock. I couldn't hear exactly who you were standby behind, but we'll keep you updated. Whee! That's affirmative. Oh, everybody wants to go and see these lions now. And we made it off the bridge in reverse at the same time. Now we have a question as to whether or not, or how one can tell the difference between an happy elephant or an angry elephant or anything in between. So essentially how one goes about reading an elephant's body language. And the answer is, you've got to have a look at the most expressive parts of an elephant are its ears, its tail, and its trunk. And those are going to tell you a lot about, and its feet to an extent, but those are going to tell you a lot about. So a happy elephant has got a swishing tail, sometimes a swishing trunk, busy feeding. You've got to be careful there though, because sometimes they pretend to feed, but they don't actually. As well as softly flapping ears. So flapping ears doesn't necessarily mean that the elephant is angry. It might just be cooling itself down. So Abby, that was your question. Sorry, I'm trying to listen to the Game Drive channel as well as we make our way towards these lions. And while we do that, and while we try and figure out exactly where they are, let's head over to Buffelshoek Dam.
Alright folks, we've just got to Buffelshoek Dam. There is a hippo in the water. We might lose signal for a few seconds. We're just going to go around the dam wall to get a bit closer to the hippo. And then we'll be back shortly. There we go. Debbie, you asking how the drought is affecting the ecology. Yeah, I think from a grazing point of view, around watering holes, if you look at this area around the dam, although most of it would have had water in a good year, but there is a bit of overgrazing around the dams. Your animals do suffer a tiny bit as well, some more than others. Hippo is one of them that do suffer a bit more. Hippo, buffalo, they bulk grazers, and they also, in hippo's case, they're specific. They want short green grasses, and there's not a lot of that around. So yeah, hippos have been hit quite hard in the drought, but we've had some later rains in some of the areas in the Kruger National Park that's been helping quite a bit. But yeah, I think in general the drought does play a massive role in the ecology and how things pan out and run. Some Cape turtle doves at the water's edge coming for our afternoon drink. I don't know if you heard the noise, but the hippo was blowing quite a bit, and if you look at his body posture, the way his head was tilted kind of downwards, looking at us almost like a gentleman with reading glasses on the tip of his nose. He's not the happiest guy at the moment with us. He's very protective of the little bit of water that he still has. So I don't think we should bother him for too long. We'll stick with him for a bit, but then leave him in peace and let him enjoy his water. Rahisa in Finland, I think any interaction with predators, be it lion and leopard or lion and hyena, leopard and hyena, they always good entertainment as long as both stories end in a happy way. So yeah, anything where hyenas are harassing lions on a kill or just making a lot of noise around the kill, trying to bother whoever's got the kill, and then sometimes take it from them. The noises that come out of that, hyenas laughing and calling other hyenas to come and join the harassment of the lions, for example. That's always quite interesting to see. Megan, if I remember correctly, hippos have a gestation period of about 9 months, and I would guess that they'd look after their young for about 2 years, maybe a little bit longer. So in my opinion, on an average of maybe 3-4 years that they'll have young, if the conditions and everything suits them well. Sharon, I think on that question of is it water or grazing, or the lack thereof that affects the hippos the most? I would say grazing. If there's no food, they don't get the nutrients that they need, so that's where the real trouble comes. They use the water for protection against the sun, but they can also go into shady areas and dry riverbeds and still get out of the sun and still move around during the day. So if there's food, they would be more likely to be in better condition than not having good sources of water. Sandy, hippos do not ruminate. Some people call them front gut fermenters, so a very similar type of digestive system to an elephant, for example. They eat very roughly and they don't utilize all the food that they do take in. What we'll do, I'll have a look as we drive off where this guy comes out of the water and he starts feeding at night. Often they defecate, and yeah, males will have a territorial marking and they spray their dung around quite a bit. We'll look for some dung and see if we can show you a bit of the dung and how rough it is, and you'll see it looks very similar to elephant dung, the kind of size and shape. Chitra, amphibian life is there's quite a few different species around. If we go back towards the hippo, and just in front to the left of its head, maybe 4 or 5 meters, there's something that's popping up and down. There's a terrapin, and that's a water-living tortoise, you could say. I think a lot of viewers from the US and stuff, you would call them turtles, but because they're living in fresh water, we call them terrapins. And these guys, they'll feed off anything around, bugs. I've seen them eating ticks off buffalo lying in the water and just waiting for a meal to come past. Joyce, you asking about ticks, and do they take that much blood of animals that they do endanger the host? Not really. Ticks work in the way that they feed, they engulf themselves, and then jump off and wait for the next host to come along. So they don't spend their entire life on the animal. They'll feed, fill themselves up, and jump off. Hippos, Zoe, I think hippos will live up to about 25 to 30 years. Folks, we're going to carry on. We're going to leave this hippo to enjoy the last bit of sun in his pool, and then carry on, see what else we can find. if you look at this bush in front of us, as we drive closer, you'll see it's got a bit of a dark color to it, and then you'll also be able to see the hippo dung and how it is scattered all over the leaves. So yeah, I would have jumped out to show you, try and pick up some dung, but with this guy just behind us, I'm going to rather stick to the vehicle for now. But I hope everyone can see a bit of it. There we go, you can see a bit of roughage there. Very similar texture to elephant. Cecilia, you were asking for some dung, so there we were able to help you on that one. Right. Folks, what I'm going to try and do, I want to try and head to an area where we can have a bit of a look at the sun setting. We've got about 10 or 15 minutes left of sun. We'll try and find a nice ridge or something to sit on and just enjoy the last bit of rays as it closes another beautiful day in Africa. Tony, the next country on my bucket list would definitely be Botswana. Go up to the Okavango Delta, do a little bit of a different safari to the safaris that we have in the Kruger National Park area. More waterborne, be on mokoros, be on boats, and just enjoy the water and seeing a bit of different game. Animals like lechwe and apparently big elephant pools around that area as well. So pretty excited and getting the plans going to go and look at those areas. Viam, what do you think? Maybe we'll stop on the next one and just have a look at the sunset, or keep going a bit more.
I think it might be early for sunset. In half an hour.
Folks, you can keep the questions rolling on Safari Live, hashtag Safari Live. Hopefully I can answer a few more. Monique, you were asking about medicinal plants that we could use. Well, the bush is like a pharmacy. There's a bit of everything. Each plant will almost have something that you can use. From oil to rub your back if you've got backache, to something that helps to relieve a headache. And then even toilet paper. This is a African weeping wattle. It's It's got very nice soft leaves that you can ply together in how many plies you would like and use as a toilet paper if needs be, if you don't have the right stuff for the job. So yeah, this is one that's quick around here. A bit further forward there's another one called a knob thorn. If you look closely you'll see there are some knobs on the lower branches. That's where it gets its name from. And apparently, I can't say that I've used it before, but you grind those dried knobs out and sniff it. It helps with relieving headache. If you look at this plant here, this is called a buffalo thorn, and we can actually eat this as a salad, or you could cook it as spinach. It's got a few African, or a couple of the local tribes have a fair bit of folklore around it. Vim, I don't know if you want to try a leaf. There you go. I'll have mine as well. One of the things, if we go back to the tree, if you look at the way it's growing, it's got a zigzag pattern, and that the local people, the Shangaan people, believe that it's telling us that life will not always be one straight line. It's going to have its ups and downs. And then if you look around, there's some thorns. There's a straight thorn and then a hook thorn. That tells us to look to the future and forget about the past and just carry on and kind of be positive and move forward with life. Liam, how's the salad?
I'm not a big fan of salad.
All right. We're going to link to Jamie for an update. She's been searching for the lions.
I'm busy searching for lions. I know that the lions are somewhere here. I just can't find exactly where they are. Yeah, I thought I knew where they were, but I guess not. Still checking. Oh, there we go. Here we go. We can make our way in. Shanae, can I come join you there? There's Shanae for Jamie. Can I come join you on this side? Alright, let's make our way in and see the Matimba males for the first time in a considerable period of time. Copy that, thank you. See that? Alright guys, there they are. Well, there one of them is at any rate. Hiding up in the back there now. I think, Brian, do you think we can squeeze our way under there? I think we can.
I think we can.
We can, yeah. We'll lift it up, we'll go nice and slowly. There he is on his buffalo carcass. Alright. So Shanae gave us a really kind warning about the fact that we're going to struggle to squeeze our way through and underneath that particular tree. Let's give it a go and see if we can't get in. I'm just trying to see if there's a second way. There are more tracks leading in on the other side. It's just a matter of trying to figure out which way around to go. It's a little bit stuck in here. Sorry guys, I need to be on the Game Drive channel again. Standing by. It's a negative, sorry, our radios don't have it. Okay. Let's try it. Should we go, Brian? Let's give it a go. We might need to just pop ourselves. We've got the zoom. So the first time seeing the Matimba males in this setting. Shanae is just in here. Okay. Let's go through. I don't want to hit Brian, so I'm going to try catch this first. Can we lift it up? I don't think we can. This is going to be too tough. How's your view from here? No, definitely not. Standing by. Here we go. Almost, but not quite. Okay, thank you. Should I say just try the other side, which is exactly what we're going to do. And Joyce, in New Hampshire, yes, absolutely. Being in this area is most definitely risky for them. Okay, let me just go in slowly. Sorry, Joyce, I will fully answer your question in one moment. We try and sneak our way in here. And let's see what the view is like. It's okay. I don't know where the second male is, so we'll stop here and we'll just have a look. Oh, hold on a moment. Just wait for the other vehicle to come through. Oh, there's this pungent smell of the buffalo carcass. All right, so my apologies to Joyce. I was in the process of answering your question. You wanted to know why they are here and if this doesn't place them in danger. And the answer is yes, it does. However, I think that with the, I don't know, it's a difficult one to decide. You might find that they are under pressure from the south and to the west. Maybe other coalitions of younger males. So the Matimba males are not all that young. I think they're somewhere around 11. So already reaching the end of their prime. I think it might just be that the Birmingham boys, with the enormous territory that they've claimed for themselves, no, it wouldn't. Sorry guys, let me just chat to Shanae. I thought we could shift it up and over, but it definitely wasn't going to work. Cheers guys. Alright, so I'll just let Shanae move out of the sighting. So guys, yes, it's an interesting change in lion dynamics. Now I think personally that the Birmingham boys have got such an enormous territory that the Matimbas have spotted almost not a black hole, but at least an opening where they can start slotting in and moving up. And maybe even the possibility that with one Birmingham down, the Birmingham Boy coalition is significantly weakened. An interesting situation, it really truly is. The Matimba males are fully mature, very, very large, plenty of experience under their belts. I have no idea, I think this might be hairy belly, but I really am not sure at this point. It's been so long since I last saw them that I can't quite tell. And this is unfortunately, unless, no, hold on. It's not the only view. It isn't at all. We can make our way to where Shanae was, I think. Shall we give it a go? Let's try that. Sure, sorry guys, this has been an exhausting lion sighting. Trying to get in here, first from the eastern side and then from the west. It's been somewhat tricky this afternoon. So while we reposition, since we're down in the drainage line and don't have the most extraordinary view of the sky, let's have a look at FWs.
Alright folks, we've found the perfect spot for the last bit of sun rays and just enjoy this beautiful sunset. You can see it's quite hazy, there's a bit of dust in the air, and yeah, as it's going down we'll start seeing more and more colors. It was a lovely afternoon, got some good game. After the sunset we'll carry on. We're going to look for some nocturnal species, maybe bump into a hyena or something moving around, maybe a serval or a genet, bush baby, and yeah, see what the nightlife brings. I think let's take 1 or 2 minutes, just enjoy a bit of silence in the bush, recap of the day, and then we'll carry on. I was hoping that there'll be some birds calling, saying goodnight, finding their resting place for the evening. Normally a few francolin species or spurfowl species calling. It's fairly quiet still for the moment, but as soon as I start hearing them I'll let you know which ones are saying goodnight. To our left there are a couple of francolins, sounds like crested francolin that are calling. Quite a sharp. Alright folks, let's carry on. We'll see you after sunset again. We're going to head back to Jamie. She's repositioned and ready for you with the Matimbas.
Here we go, we have got you a far better view of what is happening here. I have no idea where the other Matimba male is. They both were here this morning. This, as you may have guessed by our dramatic entrance, is not the easiest spot in the world to navigate through, particularly not when you are or have a very large antenna at the back of your vehicle. But we've got one of the first views of the Matimbas. Certainly the first time that I have seen them since they left the area all that time ago, last year. Brian, this must be the first time you've seen them as well.
Yeah, for a very long time.
For a long time. This is incredible. And they're absolutely stunning male lions with those big, thick manes. Full length all the way down their backs and their shoulders and their elbows. Come from a much larger stock than the Birmingham boys. And they are so close to the lodge. I know that we had the question about where they are exactly. So we're really, really close, so close that we can actually hear the staff busy working in the lodge themselves. Shame. And there's another vehicle that's trying to make their way into the sighting, but they can't see us, especially with our dark green vehicle and with our white high antenna hidden. As you can see, they have caught themselves what looks like a big female buffalo. And he is currently licking away to strip the fur from the skin to create an easier access point where he can dig his teeth in. There we go. They don't really want to eat the fur, but that does clear it away. And if those of you with pet cats at home, you're familiar with how rough their tongues are. The lions is even more so. So those very sharp, pointed, very thick spines. Station approaching the Singala sighting. Here we go. Okay, copy that, thank you. Alright, I've got your visual. Okay guys, we're going to have to do some really serious repositioning here. This has become exceptionally tricky in terms of positioning and trying to make a plan in terms of fitting us all into the sighting. My apologies for the slight confusion that's happening here and the slight amount of chaos as we all play a game of Tetris in a very, very dense area. Now, there is another vehicle that's already making its way in. However, we have nicked the best view for now, but we're going to stay here for a while. We'll enjoy the best of the sighting for a couple of minutes and then we'll move out so that others can move in. Now, we've got quite the history here to see this male, and many of you have only started watching in the last few months, so our joy at seeing them once again might seem a little bit strange, but these were the lions that were in control of Juma and Torchwood, the Nkuhuma Pride, the Styx Pride, the fathers of Junior and the Nkuhuma sub-adults, and many others. And it was only when the Birmingham boys moved in, and only because they had a massive number advantage, that they were able to, oh wow, look at those eyes, that they pushed the Matimba males out and further south towards Londolozi. So it is such a pleasure to see these animals once again, battle scarred and much, much larger. Now guys, just bear with me 1 second. I just want to have a look and see if we are going to manage this. I just need to chat with some of the other guides and just see, although they seem to be managing. They're doing this very well, very cleverly, sorting out what's going to happen. Unfortunately, I'm feeling the pressure a little bit to shift away from the view that we have. Now, Monique, you were wondering on the subject of returning male lions, since we've had the Matimbas Sorry guys, I'm just listening to the organisation of this Tetris arrangement. So Monique, we've had the Matimbas return, and we've also had the surprise return of Junior, their adult son, who around sort of the end of last year was kicked out of his pride and went on his solo mission, as all male lions have to do eventually. You were wondering what would happen if he met up with the Matimbas now. Would they recognize him as their son? It's always one of those complex little issues of adulthood and survival. They don't want Junior around. Let's make this perfectly clear. Their natural instinct is to not tolerate Junior because, and I'll tell you why, because Junior's instinct would be to mate with whatever available female would be there, which would include his mother, his sisters, his cousins. So natural lion dynamics have evolved so that the fathers are less keen to have their sons around. How's it? How are you? Can you see from there? Yep. Sorry, we'll be here for another couple of minutes, then we'll pull out and you guys can shuffle around. Thank you. So Monique, I don't know exactly what would happen at this point. Chances are they would respond aggressively. Whether or not they would know that he's their son, maybe. I think there's a good chance that they would recognize him, but tolerate him is another question. I don't think they'd be terribly keen on seeing them back here. Question is, what is going to happen tonight? That is what I would like to know. And to be a fly on the wall, or maybe not a fly on a wall, maybe an owl in a tree, to watch how this situation is going to play out. He does seem not nervous, but constantly alert, looking around and about. They are right in the centre. Not quite in the centre. They're right, but they are far enough into Birmingham boy territory for this to be a risky decision. Now, 2 Matimbas against 2 Birmingham boys would be interesting, but 4 Birmingham boys against 2 Matimbas would hardly be a fair fight, and chances are the Matimbas would do exactly what they have done, or what they did do in the very beginning, which was escape from that area and run further south. To the best of our knowledge, there was never a clash between the Birminghams and the Matimbas, but that, of course, might not be the case. It may well be that they clashed at some point with us not there to witness it. We know that the Matimba males have had altercations with the Majingilani males. Okay guys, this is a sighting that is very much in demand. There's still lots and lots of people waiting to make their way in, so we're only going to spend another few moments with them, and I know it's so tough because we haven't seen them in ages, but we've just got to hope that they decide to come through to us. And if I'm not getting your questions through, please know I'm not ignoring you. We're just right in the middle of a drainage line, and I'm struggling, or at least our radios are struggling, to convey your messages through to us. But just a quick question for all of you. Which Matimba male is this? I thought it was hairy belly. That was my first instinct. I don't know where the other male is, but it is such a pleasure to see them out here. Okay guys, one last look at the Matimba male that we have hardly seen in a considerable period of time, and then it's time for us to take our leave. Now let us head out, leave them to their snack, and we will just have to wait and see what the morning brings, or at least what the night brings. But for those of you who watch the Arathusa Dam camera, this would be a very, very good evening. I'm going to send you across to FW, who's got a hippo out of water, and we're going to say goodbye to our Matimba male.
Folks, we're back at the Juma waterhole. If you look in the middle of the screen, I hope you guys enjoy. Oh, they just disappeared. There's some dwarf mongoose. So you guys were with Jamie and having a good look at the biggest predator of Africa. Now we're looking at the smallest one in this area, the dwarf mongoose. Looks like they're not playing with us. They're hiding. If you look at those logs as we're panning out, they live in those logs, in hollow logs or in termite mounds. And right in front we've got a nice hippo out the water. He's decided to dinner. It's dinner time and he's going to start feeding. Also the buffalo that were around the water hole earlier has decided to start moving around again and feed. If you think back from earlier when we saw the other two buffalo, how delicate they worked with their tongue to get the food, to pull the grass out. And then if you look at the hippo, how he just chomps away, trying to get every bit of food that he can in as quickly as he can. There's a bird close to the hippo, just to the right of the hippo, called a fork-tailed drongo. There, it's just caught something. They'll follow these big animals around in the bush, and as they're disturbing insects, they'll just jump down and grab them. All right, we're gonna link back to Jamie, back to the lions.
Oh, I can't keep you here for very long. We do have to leave right away, but I just had to bring you back for the arrival of the second Matimba male, who has got quite the considerable limp. Earlier assessment. Okay. To bring you back for this quick view of Okay. Time for us to go. While we do, oh, a little bit of aggression there. While we leave, I'm going to send you back across to FW.
Folks, to the left of the vehicle, we've got a bit of a dance-off. Two male Nyala. You look closely, they've got a bit of hair standing erect and a very funny posture, and trying to figure out who's the more dominant one of the two, the strongest one of the two, and see who's going to be the lucky guy to get the mating rights. Now animals will, especially the spiral horn animals, will do this quite often to avoid physical fighting, because as you know, out here, if you get injured, there's a very good chance you're going to become someone's meal. So these guys, before even touching each other, will often finish the fight without having any physical contact, just showing dominance by which one is the most impressive. Maybe it's something we can learn from if you think about brawls and stuff like that.
Just dance more powerful than the sword.
Yeah. Look at that very stiff-legged movement, very proud posture. beautiful males. Both are fairly big males. If you look at the horns, if we can get close to the horns, if you look at the tip of the horns, they've got white markings, or well, not markings, but they've worked down to a white. We could call it, yeah, even they have a bit of ivory. Folks, we're not going to stay with him for too long. The sun is basically gone, so it's time to start looking for the nighttime animals. We're going to leave these guys in peace, leave the lights off them, and yeah, let's carry on, see what else we can find as we carry on. Alice in Ohio is asking for a story of one of my scariest experiences. I would take that back to lion again. As a rookie guide, still wet behind the ears, I thought I was able to track a lion and be brave enough to stare it in the face. Well, turned out I wasn't. Got a bit of a hello, a louder hello from the lion, and yeah, had to make my way out of the area quite quickly and just gather myself. I had to put up a brave face, although I was pale in the face, telling my guests we had found them, the lions, and we were going to go have a look, but I couldn't get a word out for about 10 minutes. So that must have been my scariest experience, that I thought, oh, why did I choose living with all these wild and dangerous creatures? Gene, in North Carolina, I have not had the privilege to see any live births whilst working out in the bush. No, I'm lying. I've seen an impala give birth. Between drives, me and a colleague were driving around and stumbled upon this impala that was in a bit of discomfort. She was walking around looking for a place of good cover to give birth, and spend about 20 minutes to half an hour with her, basically from the legs just coming out through the whole process, and then eventually the first steps this baby impala took, and that was last year in November. What a privilege to have been able to see that. Sorry about that. Aaron, you're asking about a roan antelope. I was lucky enough to see on one of the reserves when I just started guiding, we had roan antelope, and they also had a breeding project where they tried to get the numbers up and hopefully get them back and off the endangered species list. So beautiful antelope, massive antelopes, very big stocky animals, beautiful. folks, I think I'm gonna start getting the spotlight out, start looking around, see maybe if we spot a bush baby up in a tree or something like that. So excuse me for a few seconds. We're going to link back to Jamie.
So guys, incredibly exciting that we got to see those lions. I'm absolutely over the moon that we got to see both of them. I was a bit worried that we were going to have to leave and only see one, but we got them both and looking hungry, I must say. The ginger male was looking like they hadn't had a good meal in a couple of days, so this buffalo's obviously gone down a treat for both of them. The ginger male's still limping, as he was a year ago when we last saw him. He's got a chronic injury on one of his paws that has just never healed up. And some say it was a snake bite, some say it was a thorn, some say it was an injury in a fight. It's one of those, depending upon who you ask. But nevertheless, looking in good health, considering what they've been through and the amount of change in their lives. But I do wonder why they're up here, because from what I understand, some of the breakaway pride from the Tsalalas have had Matimba cubs or suspected Matimba cubs. They were seen mating with some of the Tsalala breakaway pride and with the tailless lioness as well. So it's an interesting situation that we have playing out, and without the protection of the Matimba males, again, just like with the Birmingham boys being so crucial in the lives of the sticks and the females, the Nkuhuma females cubs, these Matimbas were I had made themselves an integral part of that territory that they control. We'll never know exactly what's happening with their dynamics. Perhaps they feel an absence of the Birmingham boys on this western side of Arathusa, but they've been sort of heading off all the way to the north around Simbambili. It's a really interesting dynamic in play. I don't know exactly what's going on. I don't think any of us do. And we have discussed it at length as guides and with guides from other lodges as well. Lovely to see them back though. I have to be honest, I didn't really think that we would have another chance to put them on screen. I thought that might have been the end of, not necessarily because they were in trouble, just because they were so far away from our area of traverse. Now that was, for some of you, the very first sighting of Hairy Belly. Hairy Belly, I know you couldn't really see from the angle he was at, but he's got a mane that stretches all the way down, halfway, basically towards where his belly button would be. And then the ginger male, who's not looking so ginger at the moment, but I don't know whether it was just the light in that drainage line. But my apologies for the brief time spent with them. As you can imagine, 2 big male lions on a kill. Everybody wants a chance to see that, and you heard the guests that we encountered before, viewers of our live safaris. Imagine how exciting that must have been for them to have a chance to see those lions. It's a bit tricky as well. I mean, Brian, have you escaped unscathed? I haven't injured you with a tambuerti. That's good. We were sort of being extra careful with those tambuertis because, as you know, that latex that tambuerti carries is a bit noxious. It's actually very poisonous. You can't burn the wood, you can't cook food on the wood, or you'll make yourself exceptionally ill. And certainly a teaspoon of that latex could kill a man. I wasn't really all that keen on scratching myself on the tambuertis. It happens, and it burns, but we managed, both of us, to escape unscathed. I'm not sure about Rusty's paintwork, but that's okay. Paint is there to be scratched, in my opinion, on vehicles, that is. Don't tell Graham or Steph I said that. And Jesse, you were wondering, while we were with that lion, it was busy licking underneath the buffalo's chin and licking the fur. And you were wondering why it was that the lion was doing that. So the lions had eaten most of the easiest part of the carcass. I know it was difficult for you to see from your perspective, but a lot of the exciting parts of the meat for the lions had gone. All of the internal organs, heart, liver, lungs, the parts that they go for first, and then the muscly rump. It means that the lions were attempting to get into the other parts of the buffalo. And you could see there they were so hungry that the hairy belly male was still growling at ginger veined male, even though he had clearly eaten his fill. Competition has been fierce, but Jesse, what he was doing there is stripping the hair away from the buffalo's skin so that he doesn't have to consume as much as he might otherwise. So sometimes leopards do it as well, but leopards will also pluck. But lions have incredibly rough tongues that they can scrape away that fur, which does mean that they ingest fur naturally. They would do anyway. And when they first get to a carcass, when they first make a kill, often you'll find that they're so ravenous that they don't even bother with that stage. But now, with a buffalo in hand, so to speak, they can afford the time to just sit and lick away at it. Birmingham boys, just to give you a rough idea, I don't know where two of them are. I know that the other two are on First Rock in Torchwood. We're on Arethusa. Juma is straight in front of us, so to the east of us, and Torchwood is on the other side of Juma. And if I had to guess at a distance in a straight line, I would say that they are probably around, let me just try work this out quickly as accurately as possible. 7, maybe 8 kilometers away from the Matimba males. Now the Matimba males, I would guess, are going to be very, very quiet. None of those deep, full-bellied roars that the Birmingham boys are currently offering us every single night. And it's a strange fact of life that if the Matimba males were to come across the Nkuhuma females, which I don't think they will, I don't think they're going to venture that far east, but if they were to come upon those new cubs of the Nkuhumas, they would do just what the Birmingham boys did to their cubs, which would be to kill them straight away on sight. So we've got a real soap opera situation going with the lions of this area. Now, Joan, you were wondering on that subject of the new cubs, where they are in relation to the Matimba males. So, Joan, the Nkuhumas have, we suspect one den site is at the Juma Dam or close to the Juma Dam. That is about 4.5 kilometers away. The other female is even closer to the Birmingham males, where the Birmingham males are. In fact, she's basically right there, so it's 7 to 8 kilometers. The sticks are far away. Cheetah Plains, they were to the far south of Cheetah Plains, on the boundary, the corner of Cheetah Plains, Annette's and Mala Mala. That's where the Styx females were last with their cubs, so they've got an even greater distance than the Nkuhumas. My suspicion would be that the Matimbas are going to stay well away from venturing that far east. But, as with anything, the lions don't read the textbook, and they certainly don't bother to listen to our conjecture. It just remains for us to find out what happens tomorrow morning. One of those mysteries of the night. But those of you who are avid viewers of the dam cameras, I would definitely keep an eye on them. As we make our way back onto Juma, as the evening starts to draw to a close, just to go back to the lions and their licking habits of their prey. Sandy in Toronto, you were wondering, do the big cats ever get fur balls like domestic cats do? Yes, they do. They do often cough things up, and you'll often find, in fact you will always find, in a lion scat you will find a high quantity of hair in their excrement, so in their scat, except just after a meal. So that the very first thing a lion does is they eat the very rich liver, kidneys, any organs like that. That's actually quite pretty, isn't it, Brian, with the moon? Can we stop here for a moment? Whew. Give Jamie a momentary breather after that interesting off-road driving. The waxing crescent moon, hanging in the sky like a sliver of silver. Look at that. You can actually really see the sun illuminating the surface of the moon there. And I find when you look this closely, you can just imagine the shadow of the earth casting that shadow. And just that little bit of the moon being illuminated. Like the Cheshire Cat grin in Alice in Wonderland. Distant calls of the various birds, either going to bed or, in the case of the whistling pearl-spotted owlet, coming out for the night. Beautiful. Something about the silhouette of dead trees that is always particularly striking. Now, having gone from talking about lion scat to that incredible view, we're going to go from that incredible view back to talking about lion scat, because I hadn't quite finished my thought process there, so my apologies for the abrupt change in conversation topics. However, I was just going to say that the very first defecation that happens after a lion has started to eat a fresh kill, after they've eaten the rich organs and the kidneys and the liver and so on, the first thing that happens to those lions is they tend to get diarrhea. And Brian and myself had a very fortunate escape from a fate that is not quite worse than death. That would be an exaggeration, but it does fall pretty far up the that's absolutely revolting scale. And that was, we just missed. I'm busy blithely looking around for the lions, trying to get into the sighting, and we very nearly drove through a fresh pat of Matimba male lion diarrhea. And Brian, I don't know about you, but I'm most relieved. Because, actually that's true, it was nearly the back wheel, so Brian's even more relieved. I don't feel as though we could subject poor Brian to Nigel the Inyala carcass on the back of the car and lion scat in the same week. That would really just be appalling of us. It would be terribly unfair. No, we shall avoid at all costs, Brian. And apart from the olfactory assault that is the experience of driving through lion scat, there is the additional disadvantage of the fact that every time you stop next to an animal, it goes, "Oh, a lion!" and runs away, has a good sniff and then disappears. So, definitely something we want to avoid, and it sticks on your wheel for the next 3 weeks, whether you wash it or not. Moving away from things scatological, we're now heading into the evening, and we started off our afternoon by answering a question about the best time of year to see the rare animals. And this is one of my favorite times to drive around in winter. It is my favorite time in winter to drive around, actually, because you're just filled with the excitement of knowing that your chances of spotting a rare and nocturnal beast are much, much higher than they might otherwise be. So Dylan, this is definitely the best time to be out looking for something like, let's say, a porcupine or a civet. Bush babies is pretty much all year round. But maybe an aardvark, maybe. I'm hoping that you'll all be with me when I get to break my aardvark absence. Now, one of the things that we get to stop and do when you're working as a guide, and something that I have always felt really truly brings a spectacular safari experience to a close, and I've always done this when I've had a wonderful game drive, is to drive the guests out, stop the vehicles, and just talk about the stars, turn all the lights off and let them look up into the spectacular lighting that is the Milky Way. Sorry, I'm trying to figure out what's on this tree. Oh, hello. Hello, hello. Yes, little one, it's okay, you can come out. I saw you. Come on. Come on. Okay, let's just sit nice and quiet. I'm just going to drop my lights off this for one moment. Take it down a bit. Because there is a bush baby hiding in this hole. It just poked its head out as I came around the corner. Hello. Cute. Okay, that doesn't get better than this. How is that for a view of the smallest... Oh, no, I'm not ready to get out of bed just yet. That's exactly what I looked like this morning when I got up and then realized it was my morning off. That was my head emerging from the blankets and then going back underneath them. How cool was that? A lesser bush baby or lesser galago. There's actually, it's looking at us. Brian, if we go down slightly, there is a little hole, sort of, if we keep going down, if we follow that crack a little bit, there, that hole, I keep catching the glint of its eyes every now and again, so it is looking at us through that tiny little pinprick. Okay, I think it's possibly moved further down. So now you have the perfect example of where a bush baby will spend its day, in a hollowed out dead branch like this, with the perfect little entrance hole. Now that was probably made by maybe a woodpecker, possibly a barbet, and the bush babies have moved in and taken over. Come on, little bush baby. Okay, let's drop the light down again a bit. Come on, you can come say hello again. But wasn't that just the most amazing of sightings? Just like all of the primates, we got a chance to have a look at their ears, which when you compare them to, say, an antelope, much reduced in size, and those big round eyes immediately tell you that that is a little animal that has a great deal of its success strategy based on eyesight rather than hearing. Yeah, I think it's had it. I think it wants to go back to bed. I'm just going to check further up the branch because, of course, there's holes all the way up here, and I wouldn't put it past a little bush baby to have snuck out whilst we were watching it. And B. Wilson, you've just said how sweet, what a wonderful bush baby sighting. Agreed, and I haven't quite given up on it just yet. Just want to sit for a moment longer. I'm actually going to turn my spotlight off and turn my side light on, so it's a bit of a gentler light. And let us see if our bush baby comes back. Yes, no, come on little bush baby. Well, that's really nice to know that this nest site is here, because we'll be able to come and visit it night after night to investigate if they're around here. Little bush babies, you'll probably find that there could well be more than one bush baby in here, and I'm not going to move just yet. I'm going to just keep an eye on it while I chat to you. But basically, they can reach densities, recorded densities of up to 500 per square kilometre in these sorts of areas, maybe more towards Miombo woodland. I think probably the average in this area would be much, much less than 500 per square kilometre. But that is what research has shown. What they'll often do is they'll sleep in family groups, and there'll be one, sometimes even two males within those family groups themselves. So James Richards, you were wondering about how bush babies settle territorial disputes. The truth is, whilst they have home ranges that they like to hang out in, they know well, and that is part of their area, and they return to nest sites that are theirs, the truth is that they actually don't. We always talk about them marking their territory. They're actually not that aggressive about protecting their territory. So the recorded... Hello. There we go. It's okay. It's okay. It's all right. Don't be scared. Hello, little one. Hi. Sorry, James. Let's just enjoy this peekaboo moment. Okay. Gotta be careful, little bush baby, because I can hear a Verreaux's eagle owl somewhere out there in the distance. Peering up. Hi. Peekaboo. Yeah, there's all kinds of moths waiting to be caught. It's rise and shine time. Look at those enormous eyes. Now we really... Nope. I'm going back to bed. Okay. We have had an incredible moment, incredible sighting with this bush baby. I don't want to stay any longer because obviously this bush baby is feeling... Oh, hold on. Let's see how it behaves now. If it goes back in, then we will leave the sighting. Oh, look at its eyelids drooping. I promise you this is exactly how I felt this morning. Nope. I'm done. Okay. Guys, it's time for us to go. This has been incredible, but I think we should leave it be so that it can feel comfortable enough to come out of its nesting hole and start its foraging. James, I will get back to your question before the end of the sunset safari, just to sort of finish it off quickly, actually. So they do have their, we always talk about them marking their territories, but it's more like they're marking their home ranges more than anything else. Very often adult females that are unrelated or not connected to each other, or adult males, They might show a little bit of aggression, but fights between bush babies are very, very rare, unless it is an adult male fighting another adult male over a female in estrus. And then they sort of spit and kick, and a lot of it is avoided through calling. A lot of sort of conflict is avoided through calling. That kind of answers your question about how they deal with a territorial dispute. The truth is they're very unusual. I'm going to carry on, leave our bush baby. While I do, we'll send you back to FW.
Ladies and gents, we've been driving around looking for the nighttime creatures. They've been hiding fairly well. The one thing I did pick up while we were driving now, we are where we started this afternoon. So we've done a complete circle, and over our tracks a nighttime creature has walked. Unfortunately, the tracks aren't too easy to see now, but we've had a civet that walked over our tracks, so at least we know there is a bit of activity around. There's an interesting plant as well, in the light there. That is called a leopard orchid. So although we didn't see the cat, at least we saw something with the name that has the same name. So yeah. And I've also been told that you could chew the shoots of the leopard orchid as a aphrodisiac. Never tried it before, but yeah. Sorry. Derek, your question on red lights and using them at night, you can use them. They filter the light a bit too much, so we can't really see and look for stuff if we're using them constantly. I know some places do use them, and in the case of if you're desperate for a daytime animal that you haven't seen and it's maybe your last evening on safari, then you might try something like that. But it's for long-term use, we're going to miss too much and not see the bush babies and all the other things that might be hiding a bit further away. So the white light just helps us to find the animals and see a bit better. Jimby, no, I'm not the best singer or imitator of animal sounds. Probably the best I could do would be a buffalo's low grunt. The quickest one I can think of now. And growing up on a farm, I heard a similar call from a young age, so it's kind of engraved in me. They sound very similar to cows calling. So yeah, let's see how it goes. And that, yeah, you could say that's maybe when they're being attacked by lions or something, so a bit of a bellow. Yeah, the singing voice didn't really come out there. Okay. Papa Young, you asking what my opinion is on zebra. Is it white with black stripes or black with white stripes? I think it is what it is, so each zebra can decide what it wants to be. But apparently, if you cut the hair off, it's actually got a grey coat. Well, thank you very much for the compliment on the animal sound. Yeah, thank you. Just past a herd of elephant, they're just to the left of the vehicle. We're not going to stop and have a look at them. We'll leave that for the sunrise safari tomorrow morning. Ladies and gents, thank you very much for an awesome afternoon. It was a privilege showing you around the African bush, and enjoy the rest of your day. We're going to link back to Jamie and enjoy. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Oh, I'm sure that FW is feeling much like I felt after my first drive on these live safaris, which was a sort of relief combined with a vague panic as to what actually happened. I said that I couldn't remember what I said. We'll see if FW, I'm sure he's in need of a very stiff Coca-Cola when he gets back to camp, when he heads back. But I'm sure that you all welcomed him as warmly as anything. Oh my word, I feel like I've been doing a lot of dodging trees this afternoon. But there we go, scooted around. Now what I was saying, or what I was talking about, was actually going to answer Aaron in New Zealand's question about whether or not as a guide one ever studies astronomy. And I started launching into a description of what I always do with a group of guests after an enjoyable game drive. And Aaron, it's always up to each and every single individual guide how far they take different fields of study. But every guide, when they first do their training, is given a sort of a rudimentary grasp of basic astronomy. So the kind of facts like Alpha Centauri being the closest star to our solar system, and so on and so forth. How to find south. That's okay, little scrub hair. That's a terrible place to stop and eat your grass. Sorry, Brian. I didn't mean to do that, actually. I meant to turn the brights off, not the headlights. Here we go. A scrub hair, everybody. Enjoying a quick snack. Okay. And similar, the colour of the eye looks to the bush baby. That light coloured eye, almost reddish in colour. That's the way that the scrub hair eyes reflect. Just dropping the lights down a little bit. I don't want to shine right on it. So there we go. Got a slightly different close-up. Not that it seems terribly concerned by our presence. And this one's got a floppy ear. A floppy left ear. The only one of the lagomorph family that we have in this particular area is scrub hair. Okay, little scrub hair. I'm going to take my light off you completely now so that you can find your way off the road without us disturbing you. Sorry. Took a deep breath of my own. Sorry about that. So, Aaron, yes, guides do study basic astronomy, and then it's up to you how much further you take it. What I would really love to learn about, and I haven't had the opportunity yet, is to learn about some of the more local approaches to constellations and such things, particularly the Bushmen of Namibia and Botswana, those sorts of areas. Very, very different approach, because of course for them the constellations didn't take on the heroic character of the warrior like Orion, or the giant terrifying scorpion of Scorpio. Instead their constellations were things like giraffe wandering across the sky, and that's something that I would love to learn more about. Well, we have had an extraordinary, really truly extraordinary afternoon. Fantastic to see the Matimbas once again, and I'm so glad that we were able to share them with all of you. It's about time they stopped taunting us by hanging out on Simbambili. I am glad that they are back. As we come to the end of the sunset safari, we'll have to wait until tomorrow to find out what happened with the Birmingham boys tonight. Oh, thank you, Brian, as always, for Brian's fantastic camera work, as well as his dodging of the tambueti trees. And thank you to Kirsty and to Chelsea in final control. And very well done to FW and VM for their wonderful work as well. But most importantly, thank you as always to all of you across the globe. I hope that you have a wonderful day, or that you sleep well, depending on where you happen to be. And we'll catch you tomorrow for the sunrise safari. Bye-bye.